Okay, we're up live streaming and we're recording. So good afternoon, everyone. Uh, I'm Chet Frame and I'm the president and currently the program director for the El Paso Juarez chapter of APIX, ASCM. Today, we are honored to have Jerry Pacheco, who is the president and CEO of the Border Industrial Association. Jerry's one of those people who is gifted. He looks out, sees opportunity, understands what he needs strategically, and then has the ability to delve into the details to come up with a tactical plan that gets him success. And if you have any doubts about this, I suggest you take a quick ride out to Santa Teresa and see how much things have changed since the last time you were there. I was thinking about this the other day. I remember when they opened the Santa Teresa crossing, and we used to be sitting in the southern part of Juarez saying, okay, do I go fight the line or do I risk going out there only to find that the border crossing's been shut down and stopped? And I was reminded of that when Jerry posted out the other day that trucks were welcome to cross at the Santa Teresa crossing because New Mexico wasn't inspecting vehicles. So, Jerry, congratulations on that PR coup and welcome to our meeting. I'm going to turn control over to you.
Thank you, Chet. Thank you for having me here. I would like to today discuss what's going on out here. We got a lot of exciting stuff going on in Santa Teresa and New Mexico in general. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so as Chet mentioned, we have a Border Industrial Association. That's the association that represents and advocates for the 4 industrial parks we have in Santa Teresa. We also, out of my office, run the New Mexico IBA, which is the International Business Accelerator. That is the state's only statewide legislatively funded program that helps any New Mexican company export or import. And then we also are contracted by the New Mexico Partnership. The partnership is a 501c3 that the state of New Mexico formed to be able to promote the state and to recruit industry to the state. So we recruit industry primarily to the southern part of the state and the border. So those are our 3 functions. Let's see here. Okay, so one of the things we're doing here in Santa Teresa is we're trying to build a binational community with our partners on the other side of the border. The other side of the border is referred to as San Jeronimo. And we formed another nonprofit with the stakeholders of Santa Teresa and the stakeholders of, and there's really only one in San Jeronimo, that's Mr. Eloy Vaina, to try to get together on a monthly basis, discuss marketing, discuss infrastructure coordination, discuss politics, discuss anything we need to discuss, co-recruitment. And so we have a very active group here that works with the other side of the border and they with us. So I know I'm preaching to the choir, but this is, we're so very centrally located here between Asia, between Europe and Latin America. So we got our Borderplex area, New Mexico, Texas, and Chihuahua. There we are right there with the Blue Rio Grande, which will hopefully start flowing soon down here. Let's talk just briefly about San Jeronimo, which is our sister development to the south. There's the Rio Grande, the Texas border. El Paso, you've got the Pan American Freeway going all the way down into Mexico. You got Juarez there. Then that's how we're connected to the region. If you look at us over here, that's a Santa Teresa port of entry. San Jeronimo is just to the south of us. All this area north is what we refer to as the Santa Teresa industrial base. We've even, with our partners, engineered a cross-border campus. And we have our first tenant that we've recruited, a company from Taiwan going in there soon. That is San Jeronimo right there. And if you take San Jeronimo, this dotted line is the border. This yellow dotted line is the border. I'm up here right by the Santa Teresa Jetport, about 5 miles north. You've got Foxconn, which has about 1.6 million square feet of space. You have R. Donnelly, which does circuit boards. It's about 180,000. You've got Sunrise Confections. That was phase one there. That's already done, and was open this last year. All the development there. And then you can see on the other side, we have a little industrial park here on the US side of the border, and of course, the Santa Teresa port of entry. Santa Teresa is that turquoise area. So you've got the developable land right here. You've got the Santa Teresa Jetport, and this kind of oblong thin part is the Union Pacific project. So we have the port of entry. That's the Pete Domenici Highway, which turns into Artcraft on once you cross into Texas. You've got the Jetport. You've got the Union Pacific Rail. I'll talk about both of those projects shortly. And we've got 4 industrial parks. So we've got the airport park, which is the older park that we're in. It's the original park. Behind us is the Santa Teresa Gateway Rail Park. That's a privately owned 1,200 acre project in which the owner of that park provides rail served land. They have their own locomotives and they transport cargo back and forth onto the rail. They've got about 10 miles of privately owned rail in there. And that's, although they work with Union Pacific, that is not Union Pacific, that's private. And then behind them, you have the West Park. The West Park is our newest park. It's about 4 years old. We've got about 1 million square feet in that park. And then down at the border, as I showed you with the aerial, we have the border industrial park. So we got about 70 companies, about 6 million square feet. We support about 6,000 jobs. On the other side of the border, they're approaching 2 million square feet. On the other side, that'll increase, and I'll discuss that shortly. And that's infrastructure. This St. Francis extension here, this is a road we're going to take from this industrial park, take it all the way down, take it off the escarpment, take it to McNutt Road in Sunland Park, and that'll connect us to the southern beltway that goes through southern El Paso. That's already funded. We got that money out of the legislative session. That was a special session in December. And so that is the final engineering and design is being done on that by Bohannon Houston. And we hope to break ground on that towards the end of the year.
That's the $76 million, right, Jerry?
Yeah, well, we got 70,700,000. That project there is between 40 and 45, and we won't know until the final design has been done on that. Then we've got planned also an extension from the privately owned intermodal park all the way down into San Jeronimo there. That'll open up cross-border manufacturing for us. We're already doing the forms to get to a presidential permit so we can do that. And there's a binational campus. So here are the investors, the primary investors in Santa Teresa in terms of landholders. You've got the Paseo del Norte Group, you've got Santa Teresa Capital, and Iron Horse. Iron Horse owns the privately owned intermodal yard, the Santa Teresa Gateway Rail Park. So I always tell people, if you look at the current US population, the largest states, we're right next to Texas, and we're one state removed from California. But if you look at the growth in the next 20 or so years here, 43% of the US population is going to be in the growth is going to be in those states surrounding New Mexico. I really use these slides to make a case to our legislators and the governor that we have a great opportunity here to take advantage of this growth in New Mexico. And if you add, 95% of the growth, we add the West Coast, and we have been doing a lot of business with companies on the West Coast and bringing them out to Santa Teresa, want to get out of California, wanted to get out of the state of Washington. So one of our prime opportunities is the way that goods come from Asia into the United States. The ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles handle about 40% of all inbound container traffic in North America. And you see that orange dot there, that's Santa Teresa. That connection, that turquoise connection between the coast and us, the yellow dot, is the Union Pacific Sunset Route. And that is the main route going east from the coast, it comes to Santa Teresa, then it splits to the upper Midwest, the South, the Gulf Coast right there. We're like a pitchfork lying on its side. And we promote ourselves as an inland port of entry because you don't need to be sorting your cargo, taking it into a warehouse in LA or any of the suburbs. You can send your merchandise in bond, meaning sealed, and not clearing customs until it reaches its final destination, which could be Santa Teresa, or from there it could be shipped to wherever it's going to need to go. So we're really promoting ourselves as an alternative to all the gridlock and congestion at the coast there. Then, of course, you've got BNSF, which goes through New Mexico, just south of Albuquerque by Los Lunas. And then you've got Fedomex, which goes all the way down through the center of Mexico. So we are definitely a railroad hub, and this is a prime opportunity as more and more cargo is shipped by rail, more movement of products from international locations will all come through Santa Teresa. So the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles, the major shipping companies, that is the rail coming out of that area. These cargo ships are just amazing. They are measured in how many, what are called 20 equivalent units. What that means is how many 20-foot containers can you put on a ship? Right now, I think they're up to 21,000. The newest ships are going to be delivered that can hold more than 24,000 containers. It's just mind-boggling. One of the opportunities we have, again, is the railroad. Only about 100 miles between Santa Teresa and the roughly 800 miles to the coast. Only about 100 miles is not double tracked. It's going to be double tracked in these next few years. And when that happens, we're going to literally have a freeway for trains, which opens up more trade and opportunities from Asia and from the coast. This is an partial area of the Union Pacific project. It's about an 11 and a half miles long, and at places of almost a mile wide. What this is a diesel refueling station. We get about 55 to 60 trains a day coming through here to get refilled and gassed up with diesel. And we also have a crew changing station. This is where the engineers and staff jump off the train. Right across my office is a travel lodge that Union Pacific invested in, and a 24-hour diner, and they come get rest, then get back on the train the next day. So it's diesel refueling, crew changing, and most important for us, it's an intermodal yard. This part on this side here are all containers, and there's literally miles of containers on that side. You have to really see it up front to see what I'm talking about. It's just an enormous project. About a $500 million investment when all was said and done. Some shots of the containers. And then obviously we're on I-10, so just demonstrating the connectivity. Then I-25 up north through the western half of the United States. This is some of our product. We do mostly concrete tilt up over here to kind of maintain an image, a real sleek image. Well, we don't have very many projects that are metal over here. A couple were grandfathered in, but the vast majority of our product is tilt up. So we've got the International Airport, the Intermodal Facility, the Pete Domenici Highway, and the Port of Entry. And I put this in here just recently because I think we overlooked the fact that we have the border's largest cattle crossing that is worth about $625 million a year in the export and import of livestock annually. It's just an incredible facility, and it kind of sits there quietly. When we talk, the industry in Santa Teresa, we tend to talk about, the traditional type of, industries over here. But this is one that is a major contributor to our local economy. In 2020, we finished a project where we took off all of the asphalt off of the Pete Domenici Highway from the international border to the Texas border. And it was about a $47 million project. So we have brand new concrete roads. And our policy here going forward is to only put concrete on our roads, because the day that the Union Pacific project opened, we got an average of between 600 and 800 extra trucks a day running up and down our roads over here. And that's not even including the overweight zone, which I'll talk about shortly here. But we have some beautiful infrastructure out here. Some of the companies in our industrial base, we have a big electronics component because Foxconn's on the other side of the border. That 1.6 million square feet of space is producing about 70,000 computers a day for Dell and for HP. It's just mind-boggling. We get a lot of trucks northbound, and then we have a lot of trucks southbound to Foxconn because we have a couple of companies that are their third-party logistics firms here, supplying them with all the components they need to assemble a computer. But a lot of people don't know, especially in my state, because we're so far removed from the population bases and the capital and the political bases in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and we're on a different media market. So a lot of the northern part of the state doesn't have firsthand knowledge of what's going on. So it's always a challenge to educate legislators and what have you. In fact, I have the Speaker of the House and the House Majority Leader here for a tour next Thursday. So we always have to take advantage of these opportunities to educate the policymakers. But we have a big automotive component here. My neighbor to the east of me is FXI. They do the foam in your car, everything that's soft in your car. My neighbor to the right of me here is Southwest Steel Coil. They sell the raw steel coil that gets slid up and goes into all sorts of applications, even into cars. Kitty corner from them is CN Wire. It is a Turkish company that does about 7 million pounds of copper wire a month. And a lot of that application, about 80%, goes into the automotive industry. Northwire on the other side takes some of that copper wire, puts it into cables, components that go into cars. Across the street from them is Acme Mills. Acme Mills does textiles for car seats. Behind them is Vitesco, which used to be Continental, German company. That company does auto sensors. Behind them is DA Inc., Japanese company, plastic injection. On and on and on. So we have a major automotive component here. I love this project. This is my 31st year working in the Santa Teresa project, in and around it. And I feel like it's my baby. But one of the things that I love about this project is the only thing that limits us is our limit on creativity. About 10 years ago, I was talking to a friend that works for a 3PL over here, third-party logistics, and he wanted to get Inner Ceramic's business. Inner Ceramic is making tile in Chihuahua, huge tile manufacturer, and they really saw no advantage in coming to Santa Teresa. They were comfortable continuing to go through Zaragoza, even though the crossing times are 2 to 4 hours over there, where they're 30 minutes over here for commercial shipments. And I don't know why it never clicked in my head, but in Mexico, commercial loads can weigh up to 96,000 pounds. If they're divisible and coming to the United States, you have to offload to get them 80,000 pounds, or you have to unhook your double trailer and have 2 trucks bring them in. And as we all know, every time you touch something in logistics, it costs you money. So if you can save 6 cents on a dollar or what have you for logistics, you are ahead of the game. So went to the state police, went to the highway department, said, if we had an overweight zone, could the road support them? Yes, our roads are pretty good shape. Could they be policed to make sure nobody's cheating? Yeah, of course. They have to come through the state port of entry. So we went to the state legislature. We ended up drawing up a bill creating a 12-mile overweight zone, which is that orange area and that half arc that's yellow. So Mexican trucks loaded 96,000 pounds can come into that overweight zone and drop their cargo, or you can load at 96,000 pounds in that zone and take it back to Mexico. We have used this as a recruiting tool because there's not a place on the US-Mexico border that has something quite like this. We've created about 800 jobs and we promote the heck out of it. Just last year, we got 2 Mexican produce importers occupying space here because they obviously import bulk product. And they said the only reason they're here is because of that overweight zone. And you have to appreciate, we're the easternmost port of entry that doesn't cross water. Everything to the east of us, starting in El Paso, starting in the Bridge Americas, crosses the Rio Grande. So we have a real advantage to do special kind of quirky things like this, which is exciting. Now, just to make a case here, the graph on the left-hand side is all of the US states exports to the world, the growth from 2010 to 2020. On the right-hand side is export growth percentage to Mexico. That thick red line is Santa Teresa. And I'll show you what's happening, or not Santa Teresa, it's New Mexico, but it's primarily Santa Teresa.
Now, New Mexico's exports year to date, New Mexico ended the year exporting 5.37, almost $5.4 billion worth of goods to the world. That is 46% above 2021. That is a new record that's higher than we've ever exported before. Now looking at New Mexico's monthly exports to Mexico. In December of last year, New Mexico exported $201 million worth of goods to Mexico. That's not quite as high as in 2020 or 2019, but still a good way to end the year. Now looking at New Mexico's year-to-date exports to Mexico, New Mexico ended 2021 exporting 2.47, almost $2.5 billion worth of goods to Mexico. That is 13% higher than 2020, and it is also a new record. Now looking at New Mexico's monthly exports to China, we ended the year exporting $62 million worth of goods to China. That's pretty much in line with the last quarter, higher than in previous years, however. So now looking at New Mexico's year-to-date exports to China, New Mexico ended the year exporting 1.38, almost $1.4 billion worth of goods to China. That is 186% higher than in 2020.
So I should have warned you, that is from a presentation that we did. That's one of my team members narrating that section there. But we track exports out of here because it's important to us. This next graph is really telling, and this is a graph I used to make our case. That red line is New Mexico's total exports to the world. The blue line is Doña Ana County's exports to the world. The gray line, is New Mexico's exports to Mexico here. Now, if you look at this graph here, about half of the state's exports are originating in Doña Ana County. And if you know Doña Ana County, the primary factors behind the economy are the university, retirees, and White Sands Missile Range. The only thing that's being built and exported comes out of Santa Teresa. So you can extrapolate that Santa Teresa is now accounting for about half of New Mexico's total exports to the world. I have to update this slide because we are now number 6 in the Santa Teresa port of entry in terms of volume of trade going through our ports of entry. And if you saw our little port of entry, it's almost comical. It was opened in 1993, has not been expanded since then. And we're right now in the process of working with our congressional delegation. We need about $170 million to get that port modernized and expanded. Those are our truck crossings. They're almost vertical the last few years. We have just been going exponentially. Every single year, going back 10 years or so, has been a record year. NMSU did an independent study. They did an independent study to assess the economic impact that the Santa Teresa project has on the region and the state's economy. They concluded that we support almost about 6,000 jobs. We add about $1.1 billion to the economy here. About all the state and local taxes generated. But let's put this in perspective. The Spaceport America, where Richard Branson launches his spacecraft, they did their own independent study last year, and they concluded that since they were founded 15 years ago, that they have contributed in that 15 years about $1 billion to the state's economy. The film industry, and we all know that New Mexico is a film hub. Netflix is headquartered there in Albuquerque, the primary studio. The film industry commissioned their own study, and they concluded that they contribute about $800 million a year to the state economy. So with their own data and their own results, we can say with surety and confidence that the Santa Teresa project is bigger than the spaceport and bigger than film in terms of an economic impact. And when I say that to my fellow New Mexicans, if I give a speech up in Albuquerque, they look at me kind of stunned, because the film industry and Spaceport America are so sexy. They're so modern. It's almost like when I was a kid, and maybe a lot of you can remember, we used to watch the Jetsons. Remember way back when the world was modernized and we're all taking spacecraft to work and all this and that. In Santa Teresa, we're not so sexy. I say that what we have developed here are the meat and potatoes industry. What I mean by that is we have metal fabrication, we have plastic injection, we got 2 packaging companies, we got wire manufacturers, we got transport firms, we got public warehousing. All of that stuff comes to us. They build a building or lease a building, they spend a lot of money doing it, they hire a lot of people, and they're here for a long time. But it's nothing sexy, it's like, wow, we got a packaging company. That's not as sexy as Spaceport. But I always emphasize the scope of what Santa Teresa project means to New Mexico, because it's not obvious. Let's look at some of our project updates here. Last year, we finished a 315,000 square foot speculative building. As you probably know, a spec building is a building you build without having a tenant from the onset. You have to go out and find a tenant or tenants. So this was finished, and a couple of weeks after it was finished, in the Santa Teresa West Park, we had 2 companies totally take up the space. Mr. Paul Foster's company, Franklin Mountain Industrial, built its 2nd speculative building last year. This is a carbon copy of a building that lies just to the right of this on my screen here. This is a 183,000 square foot building that is now filled up. I have the problem here where in the 6 million square feet of space we have in Santa Teresa, we only have 1 cubbyhole of 8,000 square feet that's available for lease. So that's a tenuous position to be in, because companies, when they want to lease, they want to move into the building in 3 to 6 months, and it takes us at least 9 months. And now with all the construction and material delays, maybe 12 months. And so that kind of puts us out of the lease game. And it only puts us in the build-to-suit specialty building construction game. This is West Park. This is where that building, the big 315,000 square foot building is going in. This is where Zentria. Zentria is a Taiwanese company. We've recruited 3 Taiwanese companies in the past 3 years. Zentria is the 2nd one. Up here, Admiral Cable has a campus. They're our first Taiwanese company. They make power cables. Zentria makes semi-truck trailer walls. And then in my park over here, the airport park, we have Symmetric, which makes barcode code labels. That's the road we just built for Zentria to occupy this space over here. This is a little outdated, but I wanted to show this. The privately owned intermodal park expanded by 100 acres this last year. They added another 2.5 miles worth of rail. They're shipping more and more of the wind blades, and everybody's going to cheer when they hear this, out by rail instead of taking it through Artcraft and the freeway or wherever you get caught behind them. That's Admiral Cable. That's a newer picture. This is their headquarters, production plant. They have a warehouse over here. We recruited a company out of Wisconsin, Prent Thermoforming. They do PPE packaging and packaging for the automotive industry. Mr. Lane Gaddy, which is a very well-known name in El Paso development and business circles. He built a 120,000 square foot plant to recycle metals and everything else. We got 2 produce importers, as I mentioned. Sierra Madre Foods, they are out of the Casas Grandes area in Mexico, and Real Blue is out of Cuauhtemoc. They're both here in the airport park. We recruited them last year. We added a truck court for Stagecoach, big old truck court. On the other side of the border, our partners built a 200,000 square foot factory that makes candy. And that factory with 500 employees makes nothing but gummy bears. And they're going to expand by another 280,000 this year. Union Pacific invested another 20 million. They're building a block swap yard. Block swap yard is where you build what are called unit trains. Unit trains are a train full of the same material. It could be coal, it could be steel, it could be whatever, plastic components, or it could be a train that goes to one single destination. You don't drop off cars on the way to your single destination. So they built extra infrastructure to do a block swap yard. Because of the development on the San Jeronimo side of the border, we had to convince the New Mexico Natural Gas Company to build a second natural gas line into Mexico. So now we have two going in to San Jeronimo. The airport, our Santa Teresa Airport, last year completed 9.9 million in upgrades. We had been lobbying over the last 5 years. They redid the taxiways and the runways, added lighting, weather systems. We can now land 737-300 cargo jets here. But I'll talk to you about some more interesting stuff about the airport. We are in a tenuous situation because we only have 8,000 square feet of leased space over here available. But the same people that build the 315,000 square foot spec are about to, I'm wishful thinking. It'll be until the end of September, but we're going to have a brand new 365,000 square foot spec. There's already interest by a couple of companies in going into that finished building. My next door neighbor is a construction company called Aviaxa. They too broke ground on 135,000 square feet. So we have 500,000 square feet of spec space going up here. It's probably more than the rest of New Mexico combined. And it kind of rivals what's going on in East El Paso. But I tell you what, all that beautiful development, all the absorption of land cannot hold a candle to the fact that we got a Love's truck stop in the airport park. Everybody just raves about this. Now you've got 3 restaurants, fresh food alley. You can go in there and get hard-boiled eggs. You can go and get, anything you want there. It's just a beautiful facility and right across from my office. So if we total up the space under construction, Foxconn's got a 1.2 million square foot expansion going on. Sunrise Confections, which is the gummy bear factory, they're at 220 right now. They're expanding by 280,000. Blue Road is building that big 365,000 square foot building. Abiaxa 135,000. So we have almost 2 million square feet of construction underway here in this industrial base. We are marketing very hard. We've launched a social media campaign in Asia and also in the Bajío region of central Mexico. So we're hitting it hard and we're actually getting some leads. I had a Taiwanese investor come into my office day before yesterday. We're trying to entice them to come over here. We had a special session in December, and then we had the regular legislative session in January and February. Out of those 2 sessions, we were able to receive $70,700,000 worth of funding for projects in Santa Teresa. We are going to build that road that I told you that's going to parallel the border wall and go into Sunland Park and connect with the Paisano Drive, the border highway. That's about $45 million. Santa Teresa Jetport got another $20 million, So we're going to use that as leverage to get FAA match. We're going to improve the runways even more to where we can land any type of cargo jet possible. And we got some money for our water system, the above ground water tank. I always say that our motto is we've got to keep infrastructure ahead of development. The day you can't flush your toilets is the day you don't recruit any companies into your development. So we had to get above ground water tank. It's going to add quite a bit to the capacity of this of our parks and also water pressure. And then the New Mexico Border Authority, which is a state agency that's located just north of the port of entry, has to build a brand new parking lot there for the volume of people we have coming through Santa Teresa. That was a fire hose approach, Chet. I hope I didn't go too fast.
I loved it. I loved it. That is awesome, Jerry. My applause.
Thank you.
I want to share with everybody on the call. Jerry invited me to a luncheon a couple of months ago with the trade consul from Canada, who's responsible for supporting Canada's position on international trade in Texas, New Mexico, and Colorado. And that was the first time I heard about the truck stop. But I'm beginning to believe that that's a big damn deal.
You can't imagine how big of a deal. I mean, I'm seeing people that I've never seen before because they're holed away in their production plants or whatever, and then I see them wearing like CNY or stuff. I've never seen them. So the truck stops almost become like a community center.
Outstanding, outstanding. What a great story. Does anyone have questions for Jerry? Anything that you'd like to know that he hasn't covered? I'm checking the chat. I don't see anything. All right. Well, Jerry, it's amazing to me. You blew my doors off a couple of months ago. I went out and I drove around and I took a look, and I'm amazed at how much things have changed in a relatively short period of time. But you know, I'm a dinosaur. I remember crossing the first time I crossed down at the Zaragoza crossing. The border person on the Mexican side was asleep on the floor. It was a 2-lane bridge, one going in, one coming out. And at 5:30 in the morning, because we were at different time zones back then between Juarez and El Paso, at that hour of the day, they slept sometimes, and that has grown. But the significant growth into New Mexico and the incredible vision that you've brought with you and the things that you've been able to do, just applause. It's really, really good. So thank you all for attending. We appreciate it. If you've got time and you've got energy and you want more information, you can get in touch with Jerry's office and find out if you're thinking of moving your warehouse. He's still working on getting more space. So to all of you, thanks so much. We'll be back again next month for the last PDM before PDM is a professional development meeting. And we'll have our last professional development meeting until September next month, in the month of May. So, and let me bit of hype. Next Thursday at 12:15, we will have the half-hour Apex for lunch, and we're going to talk about why did he do that. I'll look at some of the things that we put forward in our education courses, and then companies go and do something different. And so we want to look at that and ask the question, why did he do that? And then what do we need to do in order to fix it? So have a great week. I hope to see all of you next week on Apex for lunch, and keep learning, keep growing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.